G'day, it's Rob here again. Well, anybody in workshop land would know that there's a couple of things that make life especially pleasurable, worth living actually, and that's anything that's free and anything that's cheap, a bargain. And I mean, if you can actually use it, it's even better. Yeah, it makes life worth living. So, well, what am I coming to? Well, I mean, this morning I had to have a cup of coffee as usual and sit back and look at the emails, and the damn fluoro light in the kitchen was humming and carrying on. I thought I must fix that thing one day. And I looked on Craigslist, or Gumtree as you know, we call it here, and somebody was actually giving away free fluoros. And I thought, oh, free fluoros, not just the tube, this is the whole caboodle. I thought, right, I'm going to get me one of those. And even though I had a spare ballast resistor for the one in the kitchen, I thought, why the hell pull it apart? I can put up a whole new light. So I quickly hopped in the old ute and I shot down to this place where the freebies were, and well, it was heaven, absolute heaven. So yeah, I'll show you what I got. You know, people say to me, Rob, you're still driving that ancient old cheap shit rusty tray top ute around? I go, yeah I am, and the reason is because it can carry anything I want to put on it. I don't care how dirty it is or how rough it is. And I mean, I can't worry about the finish because it hasn't got one. And at the end of the day, it's the most useful vehicle I've ever had. And I'll show you what the old girl picked up today. So when I got there, well, here's not one free fluoro. There's a whole swag of them. And they're all absolutely brand spanking new. I mean, there's, I don't know, half a dozen in there. And I mean, the guy said, you want the lot? And I said, yeah, I'll take the lot, you know, because the brother-in-law could use a few. And then there's long ones, and there's short ones. Get up there. It's short. All sorts of goodies. And I mean, how the hell can you pass out something like that? There's even more in the back. So we look inside the old girl, and I've got even more of them. I mean, you could say, what am I going to do with them? Well, that's a very good question. I don't know. But I mean, I do know the brother-in-law wants some for his new shed he's putting up. And the ones in my shed are pretty knackered, pretty old. So whatever's left over, I'll either sell or give away or whatever. But, you know, that's a real freebie. But it gets even better. He also had 25 metre heavy duty extension leads for $5 each. I got two of those, and they're not cheap shit Chinese ones. These are good Aussie Utilux ones, so they're pretty good. You can never have too many extension leads, believe me. And then he had an AC welder, peerless, 130 amp welder for $10. $10. I mean, can you believe that? I mean, I've got a welder. I've had numerous welders over the years, and I buy them and sell them and get better ones and move them on. But I mean, this is peerless. Good brand. Heavy as hell. I mean, it took two of us to lift it on the ute. $10. The copper would be worth more than $10. Does it work? Well, he reckons it works, but even if it doesn't work, I could take it down the scrap man and get more than I paid for it. But then there's more. I mean, the brother-in-law also wanted an extension lead, so another one, 25 metres for $5. And another one, not quite as long, probably only 15 metres for $5. And how about a 9-inch angle grinder for $10? Does it work? Well, he reckons it works. I mean, we call these the Widowmaker in Australia because they're a death machine if you're not careful with them. And I mean, that disc, if that goes, that can either kill you, take off useful appendages like fingers or anything to do with your sex life. And I mean, these things, you really got to watch them. But, and I haven't got one this big. Does it work? Well, once again, he reckons it works. And then we've got its smaller brother for $3. Bosch. So a Bosch angle grinder for $3. Does it work? Once again, remains to be seen. So, all in all, you've got to say that is workshop nirvana, you know. I mean, this is what life's all about. Bargains. So let's try these things and see if they really do work. I'm going to use a safety switch as usual with power tools, because if it does nasty things, you want to protect yourself. I mean, this is obviously done a lot of work, but it's a good big quality Makita one. G'day Mac, and I mean, as I said, these things are bloody dangerous. Next to chainsaws, these are probably the most dangerous things you can use in the workshop. We'll plug it in and we'll see what happens. Shit, how do we get this thing going? Man, that is a beast. That is an absolute beast. And there's no sparking in the commutator. Looking at the commutator, my little torch. It looks pretty good. It's hardly warm. Hell. Not bad. Gearbox is a little bit noisy. Might want a bit of grease maybe, but a tiny bit of backlash in there. $10. I think that was a bargain. A real bargain. So even though I don't need it, but lots of stuff, even if you don't need it, you might need it, and that's the whole essence of life. We'll try the next one. Alright, here's its little brother, Bosch, GWS 8, it's a 125, so it's not 110mm, it's a 125. So that's a good size. I've already got one of those, and I use it for sanding mainly, because it's good to have a couple of angle grinders, have one for grinding and then one for sanding. That way you're not swapping over all the time, you know, with the wheels and discs. And well, if this works, even better. The big one had a spanner to do the disc. This one, no wrench came with it, but I've got a couple of spare wrenches from old ones that have burned out, and it's a standard, it's a universal size. As the man said, it works. So, you know, I mean, I could have tested it at the place. They had power and I had cords, but I didn't bother. I just took the guy on his word, because, you know, you can't be too scroogey with this sort of stuff. I mean, if it doesn't work, you haven't lost much. But I generally trust people who are in the industry, because they generally are pretty straight talkers, you know, if they know that you're also a bit of a trader yourself. So. Alright, we'll move on to the welder. I've got to get off the back of the ute first. Yeah, I have to get the ramps for that. This is your basic old school stick welder, variable choke, under this knob, and you can push the choke down or pull it up or put it in between to get the setting that you want. It's pretty hard to read these, I don't like these really, but I mean it's a matter of which way the choke goes. I presume up is the high amperage setting. We'll find out when we use it. And we've got a high output and a low output, so you use the job lead, the grip lead on various output ranges. So I presume it's on the, the marking on this is pretty bad. What's this say? Oh, can't read it. We'll find out when we use it anyway. One will be high and one will be low. Probably that's the low. Generally people use the high because it will cover most things you want to do, and even if you want to weld thin stuff, you can use the high setting with a big rod and then wind the amps right down low so that you don't get a lot of burn through. You don't have to get thin rods, those little rods that people buy. They're bad news, I think. They burn through like hell. Quite often, you're better to use a really big rod. An amateur would probably have trouble striking it, but once you get it struck and if you can hold the gap right, and then you can weld really thin stuff with a 3.2 rod or even a bigger one. All right, we'll get on. We'll try it. We'll crank the old girl up. Well, it's making a noise, so something's happening. I should have really checked these tools for earth leakage. I'll do that afterwards. It pays to do that, but it'd be stiff to get caught out, and it's on a leakage trip anyway. So I've got the welding mask on. We've got it set on what I think is probably the high amperage setting. 2.5 rod, bit of scrap. We'll give it a go. Yep, that's definitely the high setting. And we'll knock it back. Go about midway. Try it again. Go further. As you can see, it's not striking because that's really low amps now. So fully down is the low amperage. I'll bring it back up a bit. All right, I've got it around the 100 amp mark. Give that a go. Perfecto. That's a good weld. That's about the right setting for these 2.5 rods. So there you go. Any mug can weld if they play around long enough, even me. So $10. Any workshop can have a welder. The work leads on this are a reasonable length. They're long enough. It's pretty much standard length to get you to the bench. On my other welder, which is also a peerless, that's a 160 amp, this is a 130. I've got some 10 metre, well, I think a 10 metre heavy duty leads on there that you would normally use for a 3-phase welder, but so I can work pretty much over a big area with it. With these you've got to move the unit up to the job, but they still work perfectly good, and the cables that are on it are a good heavy cable. They're not these puny wire things that you get on the really cheap welders. So, you know, welders generally don't wear out in a hurry, not unless you short circuit them, which shouldn't happen. And Yeah, the old welders, they'll go forever, and they're good quality, heavy duty. Although the cheap welders, I've used plenty of cheap welders over the years, you know, and they weld okay. They only have aluminium core, but they still weld fine. Duty cycle mightn't be quite as good, but, you know, no, if you can't weld with if you're only sort of a welder, you can weld with any old welder really, because at the end of the day, it comes down to the skill rather than the welder. Well, there you go. You got to say it's bargain time. I mean, you got 2 angle grinders, a stick welder, and a bunch of fluoro tubes, and a couple of, well, 4 heavy duty extension leads, all for $36. Yeah, I mean, you got to say it's the luck of the draw. And in this case, it was a factory that was moving their premises and had to be out by the end of the day. So they just marched the stuff out the door for peanuts, and I was lucky to pick up on some of this stuff. Anyway, happy hunting. I hope you found this interesting, and I think it's time for a beer. See you next time. Cheers.